What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be taking vanilla Skyrim and turning it into this masterpiece using a mod list called LoreRim. And for those of you who don't know what LoreRim is a massive mod list that contains 250 gigs worth of mods. We're going to be using a program called Wabbajack, and what Wabbajack does, it downloads all of the files that we're going to need, and it's going to organize them, install them, put them in the correct load order, and install a custom mod organizer so that we can launch the game and produce this absolute masterpiece. So let's get going here. So here on the README page, we're just going to go through some of this real quick. There are some system requirements that we want to review before we dive into this, just to make sure you guys' systems are up to par. So one thing is you're going to need at least a 10th gen Intel chip, 16 gigs of RAM, SSD, and a 3060. However, they recommend for 1440p a 12th gen Intel chip, 32 gigs of RAM, M.2 SSD, and a 4070. So my system, I'm actually trying to run this in 4K. My system is an AMD 7900X3D with 32 gigs of RAM and a 4080 Super. So we're going to be targeting 60 FPS. We'll see if we can get that out of game. So the space required, you're going to need at least 300 gigs of space. The install size is 250 gigs. So it's going to need a total of 550 gigs. So just keep that in mind. Some prerequisites for this game, you're going to need to install C++, net runtime, change our Skyrim so it does not automatically update. Check out my other video, it shows you how to do that. I'll link that in the top right. We're going to need to fully uninstall Skyrim by deleting the My Games Documents folder. Some other things to keep in mind, that you want to make sure that you move your Skyrim installation location out of program files. You can do that in Steam. You just tell it to send the game files to a different drive on your system. That's easy enough to do. You'll want to start the game once with the graphics checks and make sure to download all of the Anniversary Edition files. And then the last thing, you'll want to disable any antivirus system on your computer. Make sure there's no problems during the installation process. One thing to keep in mind, this was not very clear. Said that in the installation instructions that it was going to be using 1.5.97. So originally I tried to downgrade and that did not work. This process and this installer, the one thing that's really cool about it is it'll actually downgrade the game for you. You don't even have to worry about downgrading Skyrim. It'll do that for you. Just make sure you're updated to 1.6.1170. Download all the Anniversary Edition content, disable updates, and then move the game installation to a new folder, and then you're good to go. And one other thing, this is a very large mod, and unfortunately, you can download it without having Nexus Premium. However, going to take forever, and you're going to have to click on every single mod that it has in this mod list, which there's quite a few of them. It's going to take a long time to download. So I would recommend upgrading just for 1 month to the Nexus Premium membership. Now, unfortunately, like I said, it's $9, but we're paying for quality here. You know, sometimes you gotta bite the bullet. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna pay for it once and then just cut it after I download the mod. So here, if you're not familiar with Wabbajack, you will have to download it. So for whatever reason, Wabbajack will not install on the root drive or in your downloads. So you're gonna have to move it into its own folder, which I've done here. I just put one on. This is the drive that I use for modding. And I just made a folder called Wabbajack, threw the installation file in there. So it's going to go ahead and download and install everything it needs to. It's going to actually install it in that location that we put the installation file in. All right, so once you have Wabbajack installed, we're going to be going to browse mod lists here, and we're going to be searching for LoreRim. Like I already had it up here, but in the top right, you can go search for LoreRim. And then hit this little play button thing here. So it's got your target mod list. That's what it just downloaded, the Wabbajack file. So this is where the mod's going to install. And in this case, this is a very big mod. It is about 300 gigs or something like that, or 250. So I only have a 500 gig drive that I use for modding. So I'm gonna have to actually make the download location a different drive. You could have it be one in the same drive if you had enough space, but they have to be in a different folder. So I'm gonna go ahead. You can also hit overwrite installation. This is for updates. This isn't gonna matter if you're doing a fresh install, but might as well just hit overwrite installation so you remember to do that in the future. I'm going to go ahead and hit the start button. All right, so what it's done is it has scanned my Steam directory and has figured out where the Skyrim is installed. I actually installed it onto a different drive because it recommends not installing into the program folders, just because Windows can tamper or think it's a false positive with a virus or whatever. So what I did was I put it on my E drive, that's my modded drive. I changed my install location of Skyrim, and now it is trying to download all the files that it needs in order to install this entire huge mod pack. All right, we're just gonna let Wabbajack do its thing now, install all the files, and that is the beauty about Wabbajack, is you can get these massive mod lists and install it to Skyrim, and you don't have to sit there and try to figure out load order and where things go and why certain mods aren't loading or why certain mods aren't being overwritten and messing with the loot file and the mod manager. It's just going to do all of that for us, which is going to be awesome. So we're gonna let it do its thing and then come back when it's completed. All right, so that finally completed. That took me about 5 hours to fully install that entire mod list. That was with Nexus Premium. It took about 3 hours to download everything and then about 2 hours to do the installation. Now the installation would probably be faster if I was able to download all the files onto the same drive. In this case, I had to download the files to a separate drive because my installation drive didn't have enough space. So now we can go ahead and close Wabbajack. And the next thing we want to do, we want to make sure that we have a page file set up. So I'm going to go ahead and go into run on my system. And I'm going to type in this command here, sysdm.cpl. That'll bring up the window that we need in order to set our virtual memory. We're going to advanced, then performance, total paging file for all drives right here. It looks like mine's already been set to about 55 gigs. They recommend 40, so this is going to be sufficient. Just make sure that you guys have a page file set. We're going to go ahead and hit OK. You will have to probably restart your computer. In my case, I don't think I'll have to because it was already set. Go ahead and launch this game and see what we got going here. So in my case, I have all my files installed into the root of one of my drives and then Wabbajack mods and then LoreRim. And you'll have to look for the mod organizer. It automatically installs the mod organizer onto your system with all the mods already preloaded into it, which is pretty nice. So this is mod organizer 2. Okay. Told me I didn't have a page file, but I guess it set it already for me. So here's all the mods. And as you can see, if you're not familiar with mod organizer, you can go through here and you can look at all the different mods. You can, if there's one you don't like, you can get rid of it, uncheck it, and then you can still launch the game. And the cool thing about this is everything's already in the load order. You don't have to worry about messing with load orders to see if things aren't loading right. You already have all of that pre-installed in our 3,700 mod pack. So make sure it's set on LoreRim, and now we're going to go ahead and run the program. All right, so you do have to be patient. If it just sits on the splash screen, it might take a few minutes before the new game or the load game comes up. Just be patient, don't quit out of the game. It does work. We're going to go ahead and hit new game here and see what this is all about. and hope that all of the mods loaded correctly and that we don't have any issues. Oh, this already looks crazy good. All right. Make a quick race here. Yikes. They did the Brenton dirty. Man, what is this? Normally I pick a Brenton, but look at this guy. They did him dirty. Maybe we'll go with someone else this time. Man, there's all kinds of things you can do. So this must be one of the mods where you can fully customize your character, because it already looks amazing. So we're going to keep most of this all the same. I'm not going to run through a whole lot of this. Character creation's not really my thing. The only other thing I want to do is see what these new eyes are. There we go. I like that. The blue eyes. All right, we're going to name him Dope Kitties. All right, we're in. How the heck do we get out of here?
Approach, my child, and choose where your new life shall begin.
Well, I arrived at a local inn. I'm at a local inn. That sounds good. Okay. So this is essentially a mod that is called, like, I can't remember exactly what it's called, like First Life or something like that, where you can set exactly the way you want to start this game. So that's what we've done essentially here. Okay, so you can pick your religion now. This pretty much makes this a whole new game, which is pretty insane. I don't know what any of this is, but we're just gonna go with this. Yeah. This is pretty wild. So if you can see in the top left, it is using quite a bit of my GPU. It's using about 90% of my GPU for 4K. I'm noticing a little bit of stuttering, but again, that might just be some of the textures loading in. And we are running this at 4K.
I'd sooner bend my knee to Ulfric's Stormcloak.
Yeah, this looks amazing.
Have it your way. I'll take the job, but don't expect a miracle.
Be careful.
Alright, so digging into the performance a little more, I did end up restarting my computer just to make sure that the page file loaded correctly for the virtual memory that they recommend. And it did seem like it was running a little better when I went outside. Prior, it was running around about like 45, now I'm getting about 50. And again, this is at 4K, so I'm not even running it at the recommended resolution, which is 1440p. I'm trying to push the limits like I always do here. But overall, it is pretty wild how well this game runs. What typically really takes the biggest hit to performance with Skyrim is the grass mods. And this grass mod looks awesome. And I'm still able to get around 55 to 50 FPS. Sometimes dipping into like the mid 40s. But by and large, I mean, for a game that is obviously 14 years old, but we do have 250 gigs worth of mods. Not to say all of those are visual mods, but I'd say most of them probably are for this mod list. So here's another area that I was testing. This is kind of coming out of Whiterun, down the path. And I was getting anywhere from 50 to about 55 with my system. And if you missed it earlier in the video, my system is a 4080 Super with a 7900 X3D by AMD. And also 32 gigs of RAM. Now I did notice that the combat, man, combat definitely improved in this game. And I was way underleveled for this. And it was a challenging fight. It was much more aggressive than I remember vanilla Skyrim being. So So moving on to the graphical fidelity portion of this review. This game gets a solid A. Maybe even close to A+. I mean, it looks absolutely gorgeous. And this was at nighttime. Just changing it to night. Pretty solid immersion when it comes to the night. Because if you guys are familiar with Skyrim, the vanilla version, nighttime never really looked like nighttime. It was always kind of like a really light gray filter across everything. So this actually makes it look like night. This is a fog, and then I was kind of just messing with the time frames here to see how everything changed. And this is in Riverwood. I'm sure you guys know exactly what this is. And it was pretty cool how the fog slowly would dissipate. And then when I got to about 12 o'clock, the fog completely cleared, and this is where the visual fidelity of this game just blew me away. Absolutely insane, the difference between your vanilla version of Skyrim and this with the mods. I mean, unbelievable. Like, we might not even need S6 at this point. Although, I'm sure if you're like me, you've probably played through Skyrim like 10 times, so we could at least use new storylines, which I guess you could mod as well. But just walking through here, the leaves on the ground and the trees, it was just unbelievable for a game that's like 14 years old. Going on 15. Don't mind my shoddy sword work there. But that was another thing I noticed was the blood in this game. When I killed like animals or enemies, it was pretty immersive, pretty cool looking. So this is just coming up over the hill and looking down on Whiterun. Also pretty wild. Yeah, all the mods that they included in this mod pack just really work well together, in my opinion, especially in this area here. The next asset that I noticed was the water. The water looked unbelievable. And this is where it really caught my eye. I was just like, wow. That, I mean, comparing this like side by side to vanilla Skyrim, it's just unreal. The only thing I did notice was it kind of looked like the boats were almost floating. So there is still a little bit of room for improvement there. But by and large, it looks amazing. So this is when you're in the water. Did a really good job with everything with this river. And then even looking through the water, found myself looking at the ground a lot. Because, I mean, those rocks and the leaves and some of the greenery. I mean, I couldn't even believe that this was Skyrim at one point. This is just walking through the town here. The one thing I did like about this mod is they didn't make all the chicks in this game look like, you know, like anime characters. Sometimes it's kind of funny when you modded a game and they all look like that, but it just feels out of place to me, especially in this game.
You looking for a new blade?
Same with your NPCs, like this guy, like they just did a really good job.
I see. Of course.
And then of course they improved the menu system, as you can see here, for when you're at a merchant or a blacksmith. And then another thing that they added, I mean, this is just a fraction of the mods that I noticed, but this is the new map that they put into the game. And it makes it more immersive because it doesn't actually show you where the main locations are. Although I guess that does make things a little trickier if you're trying to go to a certain place. You're gonna have to find a carriage or something instead of traveling by foot. I think I might even like to have the standard markers before I discover it of the major cities, but it still is really cool how they did this map. It looks way better than the original. The heck's going on with this guy? You imagine walking around town like that? I don't know if that's supposed to be like that or if that's a mod. So here's the stone in Whiterun. This is the parallax that you get. The parallax effect essentially just adds like a 3D looking like stone and granary to the game. Yeah, there's another shot of that stone. So like you can see there, the stone looks more 3D. It doesn't look like flat like the original version of Skyrim. So just altogether just looks really awesome. And then same thing with this door. I found myself admiring the gold accents on the door. In fact, I found myself admiring the game more than actually playing it. But, you know, that's kind of what modding is, right? And then same thing with the fires. They massively improved how real the fires look in this game. So this was inside of Arcadia's shop, Ocean. I think they did a really good job with her, and then her shop is really cool too. So this is just some small touches of things I'm showing you guys. Obviously, it's just a taste of what this mod has to offer. But by and large, really, really good.
And potions on my shelves. Browse to your heart's content.
And I'd say it's worth it for the Nexus Premium. One thing I didn't like about this mod, and this kind of goes for a lot of mods, is the nighttime with the Lux. It almost makes it too dark. As you saw there, I was like running into things. I couldn't see where I was going. However, when you get kind of out in the wilderness, you can see like the moonlight lights up things enough for you to see, which looks really awesome. The sky and the moon and everything. Even vanilla Skyrim looked pretty good. But I just think sometimes they make it a little too dark with that lighting mod to make things more almost... I mean, it's realistic, but it's to the point where you can't even see where you're going sometimes. That's one of the only things that I'm not a huge fan of. And this was at like 12 midnight, and the weird thing was when I changed it to 4 in the morning, it got way brighter. You would think at 4 in the morning it would be darker, but I think that's just kind of because of like that orange that's in the sky there. Ended up making things a little brighter.
I'm so tired.
And I really did like the timetable where you can change the time. It just instantly changes it. I was showing that a little bit earlier in the video, but I just really like the fact that you don't have to wait for the time to like click down. And I was seeing that there is a LoreRim 3.0 coming out. So as soon as that mod releases the update, I will be doing a review on that one as well. So anyway, that'll do it for this video. If you guys have any questions or comments or any mod packs that you'd like me to check out or review, let me know down in the comments. Consider subscribing to the channel. And as always, Have a wonderful day.